So when you think of Greenland, what comes to mind? Probably just ice, right? A huge, empty, frozen landscape. Well, what if I told you that the real story of Greenland isn't about ice at all? It's a story of secrets, of strategy, and of a secret city buried deep in the Cold War. We're going to dive into how this incredibly remote island suddenly became one of the most important pieces of real estate on the planet.
All right, I want you to picture something. The year is 1959. You're a soldier and you're living in a city with about 200 other people. The catch? You never, ever see the sun. Your lights are powered by a portable nuclear reactor. And the water you drink? It's literally carved out of a glacier. No, this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. This was the very real, top-secret U.S. military base known as Project Iceworm.
I mean, this place was a whole world unto itself, completely self-contained. You had these massive machines just chewing through the ice, carving out these long tunnels, basically creating an underground main street. And along this street, they dropped in these prefabricated buildings. It had the whole shebang. Living quarters, a mess hall, a hospital. They even had a church and a movie theater. The whole thing was this massive experiment, really, to see if people could actually live and work in one of the most brutal environments on Earth.
Now, to the outside world, this wasn't some top-secret military project. Oh no. Publicly, it was called Camp Century, and it was pitched as this incredible marvel of engineering. The U.S. Army sold it as a scientific research station, a place to study glaciers and the climate. They even flew journalists out there. We're talking National Geographic reporters to tour the place. It was a fantastic piece of PR, a way to say, look what we can do. America can build anywhere.
But that was all a lie, a cover story. The real reason for this city was a secret so big that even most of the soldiers stationed there had no idea what was really going on. The true mission, the one hidden from pretty much everyone, especially Denmark, who technically owns Greenland, was Project Iceworm. And the goal? It was absolutely audacious. The plan was to build this vast network of tunnels, we're talking an area 3 times the size of Denmark itself, and hide up to 600 nuclear missiles inside. It was designed to be a completely undetectable second strike force, aimed squarely at the Soviet Union.
Okay, so this all begs a huge question, right? Why on earth would you go to all this trouble? Why build a secret nuclear city in the middle of the Arctic, of all places? Well, the answer to that question is the key to understanding why Greenland was, and still is, one of the most strategic spots on the entire globe.
America's obsession with Greenland isn't new at all. It's a long game that goes way back. It really kicked off during World War II, when the island was this critical refueling stop for planes and ships crossing the Atlantic. Then, in 1951, that presence was made official with a defense deal with Denmark, and that deal paved the way for Project Iceworm just a few years later. And believe it or not, the same basic strategic logic is still at work today at the modern Pituffik space base.
And this gets right to the heart of the matter. Greenland's greatest superpower isn't something on the island, it's the island itself. It's geography. The best way to think about it is like a giant, unsinkable aircraft carrier just parked permanently in the North Atlantic. From there, you can watch over all the key sea lanes and flight paths between North America and Eurasia. That kind of real estate is priceless.
And for anyone thinking about naval strategy, this is a huge deal. The stretch of water between Greenland, Iceland, and the UK, that's what planners call the GIUK gap. It's a natural choke point. If you want to know what's moving from the Arctic into the Atlantic, we're talking submarines, warships, everything, you absolutely have to be watching that gap. And Greenland? It's the gatekeeper on the western side. But then, the whole game changed. With the invention of long-range bombers and later ICBMs, the Arctic went from being a frozen wasteland to being a superhighway for nuclear attack. I mean, just look at a globe. The shortest path from the Soviet Union to the United States isn't east or west, it's straight over the North Pole. And suddenly, Greenland wasn't on the edge of the world anymore, it was smack dab on the front line of the Cold War.
So, what does all this boil down to? One single, absolutely priceless thing. Warning time. Just time. The time it takes to see an attack coming. The time to figure out if it's a real threat or a false alarm. And the time to decide what to do next. The bases in Greenland are like a permanent set of eyes and ears for the U.S., designed to buy leaders those critical, life or death minutes.
Okay, so that was the Cold War. But how does any of this apply today? Well, the truth is, that logic never really went away, it just evolved. The same strategic DNA that led to Camp Century is alive and well at today's Pituffik space base.
The location is the same, the core logic is the same, but the technology and the mission have shifted from looking down into the ice to looking up into space.
Yeah, the whole mission has gotten a major upgrade. Back in the day, it was all about spotting bombers flying over the pole. Now, it's run by the U.S. Space Force, and it's all about detecting missile launches from anywhere on the planet and helping our missile defense systems do their job. Plus, they're tracking satellites and all sorts of other junk in orbit. The mission has literally gone from atmospheric to orbital.
And before you ask, no, satellites haven't made this space obsolete. Not by a long shot. See, even in the space age, you need ground-based radar. It all works together as one big system. And Greenland, it gives that system one of the best vantage points on Earth. It has a unique line of sight that you just can't get from anywhere else. It's totally irreplaceable.
But it's not just about missiles anymore. There's a whole new great power competition kicking off. And the Arctic is, well, it's heating up, both literally and geopolitically. And that's making Greenland more important than ever.
Things are getting really crowded up there. As the ice melts, new shipping lanes are opening up. That means big money, but it also means new conflicts. Underneath all that ice, Greenland has huge deposits of rare earth minerals, the stuff that powers our modern tech, and that's kicking off a global race to get them. Meanwhile, you've got Russia beefing up its military presence, and China, which now calls itself a near-Arctic state, is trying to buy influence with massive investments. Heck, even the internet data you're using to watch this could be flowing through undersea cables that run right through these waters.
So this really nails the central question about Greenland's strategic value. Is it key because it's a platform, a place to put your bases and your sensors, or is it key because of where it sits, right next to the routes that would matter most in, let's say, the worst week of your life? And the answer is pretty clear. It's both. It's absolutely both.
And this complex political situation is exactly why those headlines you might have seen about the US buying Greenland were so off base. It's just not that simple. The best way to think about it is a power triangle. You've got Washington, obsessed with its strategic interests. You have Copenhagen, since Denmark is still in charge of defense and foreign policy. And then you have the Greenlandic government in GIUK, which controls all its own domestic issues. You can't just deal with one. You have to work with all three. Partnership is really the only way this works.
So, whatever happened to that secret city under the ice? Well, in the end, Project Iceworm was a failure. Turns out, the engineers totally underestimated how much glaciers actually move. The shifting ice just started crushing the tunnels, and they had to abandon the whole thing. But here's the crazy ironic twist. Ice core samples that scientists drilled there were basically forgotten in a freezer for decades. When they were finally rediscovered, they give us some of the first hard proof of how vulnerable Greenland's ice sheet is to climate change. And now that very same melting ice is threatening to expose all the toxic and radioactive waste they left behind back in 1967, a really messy legacy.
So, as we look ahead, the real competition in the Arctic might not be about who gets to dig for minerals or who controls a shipping route. The deeper, more important game is about something else entirely. It's about who becomes the partner of choice, who builds the strongest relationships, and, when it's all said and done, who gets to write the new rules for the top of the world.